Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, I'm showcasing a Scroll Cup team that helped me climb to a monster ELO of 2643 on Sunday morning. Now, unfortunately, this should have been a leaderboard high, but Niantic hasn't turned on leaderboards for the season. By asking around, I believe at the time, there's a pretty good chance that was the highest ELO of anyone in the planet, but unfortunately, with no leaderboards, I have no way of knowing that for sure. Now, the team features Mantine lead with Shadow Annihilate and Gastrodon in the back. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches. Hopping into the first match, and we've got mirror leads, Mantine versus Mantine. Now, the way to win this mirror in the zeros is by going for double Ice Beam. So you may be wondering why I'm going for the Aerial Ace. Well, my goal is actually to not win the lead here. I would much rather soft lose the lead, get my opponent very low, and then get farm another Gastrodon or Shadow Annihilate, because considering how strong they are on the lead to those Pokemon, odds are, with how teams are constructed, one or the other is probably going to be very good into their backline. So I'm very okay just letting my opponent knock me out, and I decide to go for a Mud Slap down with Gastrodon. My opponent is not going to let that happen. They pivot out into Shadow Quagsire. Quagsire farms up 8 Mud Shots, and that means they're one off the back-to-back Aqua Tails. So I'm actually going to undertap here. I'm baiting with the Body Slam, but even an Earth Power would do quite a lot of damage. Nice bait call from my opponent. They're firing off another Aqua Tail. I'm going to save the Body Slam, and now it's Shadow Annihilate time. Shadow Annihilate hits the field, 4 counters KO. They do not get a third Aqua Tail. In the back, they have their own Annihilate, and that means this game is over. Even if it was even energy, I would be in a great spot. I intentionally withhold my Annihilate IVs because I built an extremely high attack one, and I can win CMP over basically every other Annihilate. So I am going to look to overfarm here. My opponent's only winning play in this moment is to actually go for a catch onto their Mantine. So that's all I have to watch for. So I am going to commit the shield as they go for the Rage Fist, watch for the catch, there it is, and I banked the move, and now I get to knock them out with the Body Slam. Their Annihilate is going to farm down and leave with the move, but I'm not in the business of losing the CMP tie. So I bring in my Annihilate, I win the CMP tie, Rage Fist KOs my opponent, and we're off to a good start in game number 1. Hopping into game number 2, Mantine into Chestnut, a dream lead. My opponent is going to save switch into a Sableye, and this is a pretty common team. It's Chestnut, Sableye, Morpeko. Now, the weird thing about how I play this team is I'm always going to chip it with an Aerial Ace, I'm going to send in Gastrodon, and my goal is actually to lose switch advantage, because I don't need switch advantage to beat this team. As long as I have a Shadow Annihilate with 2 shields, I'm sweeping Chestnut plus Morpeko every single time. So I'm going to be firing off a Body Slam into the Sableye. Sableye does actually no shield, so they're going to win switch advantage, but that's very okay by me. I'm now going to be fully waiting out my timer, as I forgot to put my phone on Do Not Disturb there for a second. Mantine gets the farm down, they're going to bring in Morpeko, and now they just get swept by Shadow Annihilate. Shadow Annihilate, if you can get rid of their counter resist, just runs through teams in this cup. They're going to go for the Aura Wheel, they're going to switch out into Chestnut, and Chestnut is immediately met with a Rage Fist. The energy head start on Annihilate is going to be way too much for my opponent to deal with here, because the one thing you can't shield is the counter damage. They are going to fire off a Frenzy Plant, I can commit the shield, and I'm just going for another Shadow Rage Fist. My counters are now +2, which means Chestnut cannot get to a move, and the opponent is going to concede the match. We pick up a profoundly negative lead, leading into Toxapex. One wing attack and a safe switch into Shadow Annihilate, and unfortunately this team came prepared. They have a Sableye. Sableye is going to shield up the Rage Fist and get a full farm down. One of the disadvantages to running, as I do get one turn here, an extremely high attack Annihilate is you're not going to have the bulk, and as you see, I just got absolutely melted by that Sableye. My hope now is that Gastrodon is going to be able to 1v2 in the back with a shield advantage. I'm able to make the Aerial Ace, which is quite nice. Aerial Ace is going to be able to pick up the knockout, and then it's all up to my Gastrodon. In the back is going to be Guzzlord. Guzzlord firing off energy, and unfortunately, this is not a Pokemon that I was hoping to see. Gastrodon up a shield can do a lot neutrally, but they have so much fast move pressure. I'm able to go for the bait here, and the bait pays off, but it's not enough for me to outpace. And to win, I would have had to outpace. So I end up letting it go. A Brutal Swing will do incrementally more than a Brine, but either way, I'm just too low at this point where the Toxapex can unfortunately poison jab me down, and I will resign the match. The Scroll Cup, it is a bit alignment dependent in nature. I think this team is one of the better ones as we get a great lead into Golisopod. They save switch a Dugong, and my goodness, everything's coming up roses in this next game. I do think it is a fairly alignment dependent cup, but I think this is one of the few teams that has a better chance of cutting through the RPS than most. They debuff me, I can buff up my attack right back, and I will get a nice counter down. And the icing on the cake here is I'm actually healthy enough that I survived 2 Shadow Claws on the Annihilate. I can make a last second Rage Fist and deal huge damage. In the back is more Pekko. I send in Gastrodon, and this is an extremely straightforward game. People run a lot of weird Morpeko movesets in this cup. A lot of Seed Bomb, the occasional Outrage. So I've learned as the Gastrodon, I'm basically just always going to be shielding. I'm going to fire off the Body Slam, they're going to shield back, but realistically, the moment I fully farm down the Morpeko, they no longer have an ability to win the game. They go for another Seed Bomb, I get the full Mud Slap farm down, and there's just no way past the Mantine, so Golisopod re-enters the field, and my opponent will resign the match. We hop into the final match of the set, and we have Mantine versus Azumarill. This is a very particular Mantine, and that actually helps me do better against Azumarill. Very high rank Azumarill actually take 1 less damage per wing attack, but with a little bit of attack that I have on this Mantine, I can actually negate that bulk point from Azumarill. Azumarill is going to go for a Play Rough that does quite a bit of damage. This matchup still isn't the greatest, just due to the reduced pacing post wing attack nerf, but at the very least, I can get my opponent very low. I won't get knocked out here. A lot of these teams have Sableye in the back, and they like to get Sableye an energy advantage, so I blind switch anticipating the Sableye switch in, and I actually get it right. That is incredibly important. My Annihilate now dodges the Sableye, I bait with the Body Slam, and I'm right back in the game, as my opponent will actually end up committing the shield. They're going to go for a Foul Play. Foul Play does not KO. I'm able to get to an Earth Power, and now I have so much traction against my opponent. They're going to let it go. Sableye gets knocked out. In comes Azumarill, and I'm going to send in Shadow Annihilate. Shadow Annihilate now getting a healthy energy advantage, so I've already seen the Sableye. I should be in a pretty okay spot, and it's an Air Slash Mandibuzz. So my opponent brought 3 Shadow Annihilate counters. So this is going to be a tough fight, but up energy, Shadow Annihilate is just disgusting. Look at this thing absolutely manhandling Air Slash Mandibuzz. This Ice Punch is going to grab the shield, and then I can combo with the Mantine. I should have done 1 wing attack and the move here, because as it turns out, I can actually survive the next Air Slash, but either way, I'm just winning here because the counter that sneaks through will knock out. So they're not able to get any additional damage or charge attacks, and Shadow Annihilate counters down, and that secures our 4-1 set to take us to 2643 ELO, which is my ELO high for the team. And I did actually reach that ELO on Sunday. We move to the next match, picking up a pretty bad lead, Mantine into Shadow Drapion. Drapion just outpaces and hits for massive damage. My goal is to tank a move and then send in Shadow Annihilate. Out comes Brionne, and I'm very happy to see Brionne because there are no good Charmers in this cup. They're all terrible, and like, look at this. Brionne, if it no shields, just loses to Shadow Annihilate. It's just, in my view, it's not worth ever having on your team because unless you invest shields, they're just absolutely terrible. Now here, unfortunately, I end up throwing on alignment because I get the 1-turn bring-in lag. I really hope that with the new company taking over, they're able to fix some of this stuff because my goodness, it is very difficult to play at a high level when the game is not working as intended. I baited just because I'm pretty aware at this point that by bringing in the Mantine, they would want to protect it first, and now I can land the Ice Beam, and landing the Ice Beam, I'm just winning now. I can send in the Gastrodon, and Gastrodon, this is an uncomfortable health range because it isn't Body Slam range, but even so, Gastrodon with the shield is absolutely going to be the win con in this particular matchup. I farm up quite a bit, they're firing off another charge attack, and I'm still not going to be shielding. The reason is this is going to do less than a move from their Drapion. So I get to fire off the Body Slam, that's going to take them to 1 HP, out comes the Drapion, and with all this residual energy, Gastrodon just gets the runaway with the game. Body Slam is going to be shielded, they make it to another charge attack, but I still have my shield. Up until this final moment, I finally get to use it. So I get to fire off this final body slam, taking them into a range where a Mud Slap will KO. Gastrodon Mud Slaps down a Flying type to take the win. A tough lead returns in the next match, Mantine into Toxapex. I'm going to save switch into the Shadow Annihilate, and my opponent is going to wait till the last second to switch out and catch onto Gastrodon. Their Gastrodon did sneak through a fast move as they caught, but they've allowed my Annihilate to already get boosted, so these counters are just deleting this Gastrodon. Gastrodon is going to shield up the Rage Fist. They're forced to actually throw an alignment there because if they didn't, 2 counters would have KO'd. They go for the Water Pulse, counter farms down, and back in comes the Toxapex. Toxapex will be able to tank this and farm me down, but they're going to be pretty deep into the red health at that point. My opponent, they decide to throw energy, which honestly works great for me. They could have farmed down, but they would have been so incredibly low. Gastrodon hits the field. Opponent is now going to farm up, and in the back is Guzzlord, and this game is over. Honestly, I don't even have to go for Ice Beam on the first. I feel like going for Ice Beam here is just a completely unnecessary risk because if I go double Aerial Ace, I still win the game anyway. And if I go for an Ice Beam, there's a chance that they shield the more expensive move. So going straight Aerial Ace is just winning in my position. They fire off energy. I'm very okay letting this go because I can now throw a couple Mud Slaps and I should be able to knock out with the Earth Power. It is going to be close. I'm not sure of exact damage values here, but Earth Power does actually KO. And Toxapex, they can just never do enough damage to a Gastrodon that's pretty healthy with a shield. They go for a little bit of bad manners with the Sludge Wave, but we're able to take the win. We move to the next match, a pretty okay lead, Mantine into Guzzlord. I'm more than happy to stay in and play this out because of course I have access to Ice Beam. Opponent is going to save switch into a Azumarill. Now it might seem crazy to save switch Azumarill in a Toxapex meta, but considering that my lead is Mantine, I cannot have a Toxapex in the back because if I did, then I would just lose every time I faced a Morpeko. So for my opponent, it's actually a pretty calculated save swap where they know that I can't have a Toxapex back there. I get to fire off the Earth Power. That does some pretty nice damage. I will get KO'd by a Play Rough, but I kind of just have to let it go. They make a misplay here, though. They go for an Ice Beam, and I actually have the rank 1 Gastrodon. I've had it for a year before the Mud Slap nerf. I caught it at one of the Go Fests. In comes the Guzzlord. Guzzlord does have a ton of energy. They're now on 6, which means, unfortunately for me, they can actually make it to another move. So I bank energy, and I'm going to send in Mantine. Ice Beam is enough, knocking out the Guzzlord. They still have a very low health Azumarill, but the Pokemon in the back is a Shadow Sableye, and that unfortunately will seal my fate. Had I stayed in with the Annihilate, double shielded, farmed all the way down, left with a bunch of energy, I think I would have been in an okay spot because I had a lot of energy on the Mantine. But instead, I went for kind of a hybrid in between play, not anticipating their final Mon to be Sableye, and it actually ends up costing me in a huge way because I'm a very frail Annihilate, so I just get farmed all the way down. We've got another mirror lead, Mantine versus Mantine. Again, I'm going to look to try and play out this matchup by soft losing it. So when they get to the Ice Beam, I'm going to go for the Aerial Ace right off the bat. Aerial Ace, going to be no shielded. I'm of course going to be no shielding as well, and since I'm going to win CMP over most high rank Mantines, I'm very okay playing to it. They're going to save switch into a Shadow Sableye. It appears they clicked the switch too late, so they actually got 1 turn switch in, and that's very valuable information for me to have, because now when I send in the Gastrodon, they should be on 8. If they got 0 turn switch in, they would be on 9 because they would have snuck. So I can actually throw this Body Slam. It's double resisted, but it will be able to knock out, and I can prevent them from making a move that would force my Gastrodon to shield. In comes Mantine, and this is going to be a little uncomfortable. I get to fire off the Body Slam. Body Slam is going to connect onto the Mantine. Mantine farming up a ton of energy. They bank 9 wing attacks. In comes Guzzlord. I can't switch out, so I'm forced to throw a Body Slam. Body Slam is going to be shielded. My opponent looking to preserve health, and now I send in the Shadow Annihilate. This is going to be tricky because they have 1.5 Aerial Aces already banked. But I do see a way out in this game, and it's by catching onto the Mantine. My goal here is to catch and then stop tapping. I want them to knock me out, because then I can get the energy advantage that I need on the Shadow Annihilate to win this game. And now I get to 2 moves before they get to 2 moves. So at that point, they realize they're getting outpaced, so they're just going to let the first through, and I'm able to take the win. Hopping to the final match, and we've got one final Mantine mirror lead. Now, this trainer who I'm playing is actually someone who I recommended the team to, so they're well aware of what I'm playing, and I'm aware of what they're playing. Now, my goal, because we both know each other's team and the optimal way to play out the strategy, is now to play it a lot differently. And that is, I need to save energy on my Mantine, and actually switch Gastrodon into Mantine. It's weird that in this matchup, whoever switches Gastrodon into Mantine first is actually going to win the game, because my opponent is now going to send out their Shadow Annihilate. They banked a bunch of energy on the Mantine, I'm able to get a shield from my opponent, they continue to farm a ton of energy, and I make it to Earth Power number 2. Now, whether they shield this or not, this game is effectively over. Had they thrown a move, then they wouldn't have been at 2, I could have just clicked Aerial Ace, and they would have been in a very tough spot where they can't really win. So, unfortunately, in this particular instance, the moment that I switched my Gastrodon into the Mantine, the game was won. This is not a play that I would typically make if I didn't know my opponent's team, but obviously, they knew my team and I knew their team because I was the one who provided the team recommendation. At this point, they just need damage. So they're just going to go straight for the body slams. But I know that I can just double shield. Using both my shields on double resisted moves actually does end up being a good thing in this match, as I can farm all the way down, exit with a Rage Fist, and this will very comfortably knock out the Mantine. So this final game, definitely a weird one, but since we both knew each other's teams, I was able to make the correct adjustment and win the game. All in all, I'd be lying if I said I didn't feel a little bittersweet about making this video. I really wish that from the moment someone hit veteran, leaderboards were just up for the season. Because that way, people would be able to know, how am I doing in comparison to the best of the best? And people who have really good starts to the season would be able to see, are they actually at rank 1 in the world? On Sunday morning, the closest, I believe, was Elephantflasha, who was at 2640. And on Monday, Zizwilus was actually able to climb a bit higher. So Zizwilus, I believe, now in the 2660s. So if leaderboards do come out on Tuesday, which would be the day that I post this, odds are I'm probably not going to be number 1. But man, I'm hoping, I think it's just a really good Scroll Cup team. This team worked very well. I don't think it's a very good meta, but I think this team is one of the best options in a not very good meta. And also B, I just want this video to say, Niantic, please put leaderboards out earlier, because having a chance to get number 1 in the world would have been really cool. And unfortunately now, I'll never get to know for certain. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoy watching content like this, please do consider leaving a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our channel members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is genuinely so appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.